told you before the break that there's a really cool history between Nebraska and Washington, and it starts way back when Joe Cipriano was playing here. Now, a lot of you don't even know who Joe Cipriano was. He was the coach that succeeded Jerry Bush, our current coach's grandfather. Fred Hoiberg's granddad coached at Nebraska, and let me just tell you the story. A good friend of ours, Tom Simon, shared, and I knew all this, but it was good that he reminded me. He said, Joe Cipriano, even though he's a little bit before a lot of people who were listening tonight, before your time, this was the venue where Joe played basketball for the Washington Huskies from 1950 through 1953. Cipriano was the all-conference guard who led Washington to their only Final Four appearance in Kansas City in 1953, where they finished third after losing to Dean Smith and Kansas in the semis. Alaska Airlines Arena was then known as Heck Edmondson Pavilion. Cipriano's coach at Washington, this gets even better, was Tippy Dye. Tippy Dye later became the athletics director at Nebraska, where he hired both Cipriano and Bob Devaney. And then Dye went on to pick Joe to replace Jerry Bush. So that's a pretty cool story. And another cool story, the connection between Nebraska and Washington, is Rich King. Everybody remembers Rich King, the number 12 all-time scorer in Nebraska basketball history. And I knew him before he even committed to Nebraska way back in 1987, was it, Rich? Let's get you up. I can't hear you. Is he on the air? Here we go. Had to push the button.
Hey, can you hear me now?
Can hear you now. 87, wasn't it?
Yeah, long time ago. Long time ago. Yep.
Sure, it's great to see you, man.
Likewise.
Rich.
It's great to hear you.
Thank you. I've got to ask about your mom.
Mom's good.
She's doing good?
She's doing good.
Haven't seen her for so long.
Yeah, she's in Phoenix this time of the year. They're back in Nebraska and Omaha in the summer months, and then spend the winters down in Phoenix. Can't imagine why.
Yeah, imagine. Well, it's not been a bad winter there in Omaha or in Nebraska, as winters go in Nebraska. Rich scored 1,475 points. Reigns is the number 12 all-time scorer. First-round pick of the Supersonics. 14th pick, wasn't it?
Yep. 14th
pick. I think he logged 7 seasons one way or another, and then you have 6 surgeries, something like that.
Yeah, you got all your facts right.
I got it. And then you never came back home.
Nope, I stayed here. I met my wife, now my wife here, back when I was playing, and even though I bounced around the NBA for a few years after my 4 years here in Seattle, kind of made this home base in the off season, and you know how it goes, you make friends and just kind of made connections, and so settled here, and beautiful part of the country. And
it is.
And yeah, been here now, it's hard to believe, over 33 years.
Yeah, I think I looked and said Rich King's 55 years old. How's that even possible?
I wish I knew.
Yeah, it makes me shudder knowing how old I am. Well, anyway, the connection is that Christian King is Rich's son, and he plays for the Huskies. So there's a lot of.
There's all kinds of connections. I look here and I see Braxton, who Christian played with last year, of course, and of course we've got Wilhelm, and so there seems to be all kinds of cross-pollination.
So tell us about your life. I know you sold real estate here, commercial real estate, was it?
That was a long time. That was, I think, when I was still playing, and I've been at Amazon now. It'll be 14 years at the end of this month.
And you're doing Alexa,
I've done business development for a variety of orgs, including Alexa. I'm now in our Amazon Air org, our fleet of airplanes that we use to move packages all around the country. Make sure you get your stuff in one day. And so, yeah, that's kind of a mind bender. 14 years with Amazon. I've got 2 boys, Christian, obviously, and then I've got another one who's a senior at Seattle Prep. And my wife, who's from Eastern Washington, is here. And we've got a dog. We live over on the east side. So,
how long did it take to get to the arena here tonight? I know you made a special effort.
There's no traffic because everyone's worried it's about to snow. It's supposed to snow tonight. Literally no traffic. So it took me like 15 minutes to get here.
You mentioned working for Alexa. I probably shouldn't talk about Siri then, right? Well, so do you ever get back to Nebraska?
I wish you wouldn't ask me that, because I'm embarrassed to say I have not been back in 10 years, I think, maybe a little bit more. And part of the reason for that is basketball with the boys. And
sure.
tough time of year to get back for basketball games. And then in the summer, you don't want to leave Seattle in the summer. That's our 3 months of bliss when it's nice here. And my mom and family would always come out here when the kids were younger. And so I'm embarrassed to admit I haven't been back in a long time.
Don't be embarrassed.
I am hoping to go back next year for this game, if not before.
Yeah, we'd like to have you for Alumni Weekend sometime.
That's another one where it's tough because it's always we typically have one or both of the boys have games here that time of year, so it's just been tough.
Not this year, but the year before we had Danny back
I saw
and
that.
Celebrated the Big 8 postseason tournament team. And he was a dandy, I'll tell you.
That's one word.
So you keep up. I know you keep up with the program. What are your thoughts on what you see?
I do more, honestly, I do more this year because of the Big Ten connection. Prior to that, it was difficult. We didn't even have the Big Ten network, at least with my TV provider last year. Now I made sure we have it. And so that's been a fun part of it, is just having that connection back. I still can't really wrap my head around the fact that Washington and Oregon are in the Big Ten.
It isn't right, is it?
But so I've seen a lot more games. Obviously follow, even before that, have followed the last couple of years, still talk to some of the guys that live back there like Bo and know that Fred's got things going in the right direction. And it's exciting to see. I haven't been back to the new arena, which I hear is amazing. And so it just sounds like there is a lot of enthusiasm and buzz about the program, and that's awesome to hear.
He's a really good man, a really good coach. I think they're making a lot of progress. They had a little rough patch here before Oregon and Illinois before that, but
who hasn't in this conference?
Yeah,
right. Other than maybe Michigan State, it's just you're going to go through a bad patch because the conference is so tough, top to bottom.
Yeah, I mean, somebody said, I think this put it beautifully. There is no bottom in the Big Ten,
right?
Right. I mean,
true.
And it's kind of a throwaway. People say this about conferences and teams. You can get beat on any given night, but it's true. I mean, you tell me who the worst team in the Big Ten is right now. A couple of weeks ago you'd say Minnesota. Well, they're beating people. So
there's, I'm sure, UW has been in that conversation at times, but then has had some impressive wins. Minnesota, Penn State, like you said, on any given night, I think any of these teams could beat anyone. And so, especially going out on the road, there's just no gimmies.
What comes to mind is the warmest feeling you have about your days as a Husker?
Oh gosh, there's so many. Part of it also is because that was home for me, right? I was born and raised there. That whole, I came there. Danny sold me on the vision of we're turning this thing around. You can go to Kansas or Arizona, you can go be another cog in a machine, and probably have a good time, or you can come here and help us build something. We're going to get this thing turned around, and we did. And so, sort of that whole journey. And of course, those were the days where you could bring in freshmen and know that they were going to be there in all probability for 3-4 years, and sort of look at your pieces and go, gosh, in 2 years when this guy's matured and we're going to bring this guy in, guys like Piakowski and Chubbuck, and just that whole journey was such a special time for me personally, but I know for my teammates, and I think just for the program as a whole. And so that, culminating in our senior year, which I just think was a phenomenal team. I still believe that team was special. I still believe if we could have just gotten past that first game against Xavier and kind of gotten the, just the nerves out, of hadn't our first time in the tournament, and sort of settled in, I think we could have really made a run. That was just a special team. And so
it was
fun memories, great times.
It set the standard, and trying to get back to that place. 26 wins that year, and such depth on that team.
Such depth.
Every kind of piece that imaginable you needed.
Such depth, such height, such speed. The fact that I was thinking about it on the way down here, I think Clifford was our shortest starter at 6'4", 6'4", 6'6", 6'7", 6'8", 6'9", 7 feet starting lineup, and yet we were kind of an up and down fast team. We put up a lot of points. You don't see that even a lot today. So that was a special team.
Yeah. Thinking about putting that kind of talent together, Jimmy Williams had a lot to do with that, I think, didn't he?
Jimmy Williams, Lynn Mitchum, Danny, of course.
Yeah.
Danny was a great salesman. I don't mean that in a bad way. Really sold the vision the enthusiasm of the program. And
well, you'll be happy to know when he came back a year ago, I kind of escorted him around the night before the game, and he was nervous that he was going to be booed at halftime. I said, wait, Danny. You're going to be shown how much people loved you, and they did, and he was touched.
That's
so
great.
It's
great to hear.
Yeah. And you too, Rich. I mean, everybody thinks all these years later, what a great contribution. So I'm glad you were able to come down and visit with us.
Thank you for having me. It's so great to see you. It's great to hear your voice. It takes me back. I'm looking forward to this. This should be a fun one. People have been asking me all day long who I'm rooting for, and I was like,
well, Christian's not playing, so
Christian's not playing, but it's my son's team. So let's put it this way: I won't be disappointed when I leave either way.
Let me tell you, folks, he's got a Washington quarter top on, so we know who he's going to root for. But that's okay. We understand. Blood. It's all about blood.
Exactly.
Rich, great to see you, man.
Great to see you.
Say hello
Thanks,
to your mother.
Say hello to everyone back home. Thanks for having me.
Oh, all right. Very good. Rich King, glad we were able to connect and have him on tonight. We need to take a break. And to remind you that Akers Equipment is Nebraska's premier John Deere dealer. Akers, solutions for every field. More on Husker Courtside upcoming. This is Big Red Basketball.